This music brought to you by Jeremy Vellucci. Spared no expense.
Spared no expense.
Spared no expense.
All right, Brandon, give us the thing.
Full spoilers for Day Shift. This is the new film from Netflix starring Jamie Foxx. I forgot the director's name. Sorry. You can check it out on Netflix right now. It's out now. Full spoilers. Pause this. Stop this. Close the tab. Do something. If you're watching us live, spoilers. Full spoilers. We're gonna spoil the shit out of this movie. Spoilers. I'm buying time for Sparkz to find the director.
J.J. Perry.
J.J. Perry. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What do we think about this? You've been
go ahead, Ben.
Okay, guess I'm going first. I enjoyed it. I actually had a really good time with it. There are some things story-wise that kind of left me hanging a little bit. But other than that, I had a fun time with it, but also it was really, I don't want to say jarring, but it was still kind of funny seeing all these major landmarks of the San Fernando Valley, such as the Northridge Fashion Center, which is a mall Brandon and I used to frequent a few times back when we lived in Northridge when we were going to school there. And then I'm seeing like Coldwater Canyon, Ventura Boulevard. It's like, oh, I know where all these places are. Outside of that, I mean, it's always jarring when he's like, hey, I drove down that street probably where they filmed this. Besides that, I still had fun with this movie. It was
that mother effer always found parking. You can never find street parking in Northridge.
Bullshit. I mean, it's like, oh, I'm going to have even like some of the houses that he lived up. It's like, man, that must be in Simi Valley because that's where the really nice shit is.
He just pulls up to Dave Franco's place and just parks on the street. I'm like, no way you're finding parking. You're looping that block 3 times before you find a parking spot. Anyway, sorry.
The PTSD from trying to find parking in Northridge.
You liked it, Sparkz?
Yeah, I think that it's fun. I do think that the action is awesome, really good. I think that the cast is mostly selling the film. I think overall it's a lot of fun to be with them. I like a lot of the inventive vampire world stuff they're doing here, even if we don't explore it quite to the extent I'd like to in this movie. But I do like its setup. I like its premise. I like its action. I think it's good. I think it is good.
I really enjoyed this. I had a really great time with this one. I think the leads are all great. I only have 2 issues with the movie. And I guess we just might as well just get into it because I think we might.
Let's do it. Let's just talk about some negatives. Yeah.
I think we might have the same issue with the villain.
Oh, see, you said leads, and I'm like, technically, isn't she like?
So I wasn't counting her.
Yeah. Yes, the villain's. No offense to. I'm gonna look up her name.
Yeah.
Carla Souza. From How to Get Away with Murder. Oh, congratulations. No offense to her. And I'm willing to put down that I think J.J. Perry, we know, we've talked about it before. This is his directorial debut. He does a lot of stunt stuff. That's why the action in this movie is so awesome. And it is. He's coming from that. And I don't know that he has the experience and experience is the word to pull the proper performance out of actors who don't already know what to do. And I think that she is the prime example. Like, I think everybody else in this cast kind of knows what to do with what they're given. And they probably honestly could have also been improved with a more deft hand in the directing, but they're good regardless. She suffers. And I don't think it's necessarily that she's written poorly. I think it's just that she's not interesting to watch. She's just not giving us anything as a villain performance. She just is there to be the villain. And I find that dull. Like when we get to the end and we have the part where her and her right-hand guy split up, her right-hand guy is played by Oliver Masucci. And you've seen his face in things before. He's giving good vampire face. And so when they split up for their fights and you've got Dave Franco and Heather fighting him and then Jamie Foxx fighting Audrey, I'm way more interested in him just because he's a more interesting presence as a vampire villain than she has been up to this point, and she's just not giving me anything in the performance. And I'm sorry to say that. I don't mean a disrespect to the actor. I don't think it's really entirely her fault. It just doesn't. It reminded me a lot of when we talked about the Adam Project. Like the only thing that was sinking the Adam Project from being a great film was the villain was just forgettable as hell. And it's the same situation here.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I agree also. That wasn't the first thing I thought about as for my negatives on the film, but now that you mention it, I really was like, I was totally fine with like maybe like the main protagonist or the antagonist would just be the time limit that that Bob had to get the money so he can keep his family in California.
Outside of her initial scene, which I did enjoy.
That's a great scene. You're right. That's a great scene.
That's a great scene. I Jamie Foxx talked about it on the behind the scenes thing. He's like, this movie got like, eating popcorn moments. And I'm like, well, this movie also has looking at your phone moments, which were every single time it was just the villain. I checked out, except for the opening scene with her, which I do think is a great scene.
It's a great, you're 100% correct. It's a great introduction scene. It gives her a presence, and nothing about the rest of it pays that off for her. Ben, continue.
Yeah. What was I gonna say?
We're just talking about her.
Yeah, she is. I mean, she's forgettable. I mean, outside of that opening scene, which is a brutal way to take out a vampire, it was.
Like, I love that whole thing. Just like pouring the cement on. Love it.
Yeah, that was a brutal way to kill a vampire. I would say that other than that, it's just like, oh yeah, I forgot you're the antagonist in this movie, and even her motivation when it's finally revealed, it's like, okay, but then it's like the whole time it's like, why is she really going after this guy? It's like, I don't get it.
I assumed early on from when she cradled the old woman and was like precious and whatever she said, that there was some familial relation of some kind. I thought that was good motivation. It's what's shitty about it is that you don't even give her the opportunity to be the character that revealed that. It's not Audrey who talks about that. It's Heather. Heather tells Jamie Foxx's character about that. And Audrey doesn't have that moment of saying like, I had to work so hard to find my daughter because we were separated and I found her when she was old, but at least I could give her eternal life. Like you don't do any of that. She's robbed of that opportunity, and I don't fault the actor for that, but because of that, like you have a weaker, less impressionable villain. She's just kind of. I said that I was talking to Megan about it because Megan didn't watch it with me, but I was telling her about like some of my stuff with it, and I'm like, if you look at Fright Night, and it doesn't matter which one I'm talking about, it could be the original, it could be the remake. It's not very complicated motivations for the villain. He just wants to eat people, and he's mad that the neighbor caught him. That's it. That's what he's doing. But the performance by both of those actors, original, remake, is so full of life and full of presence that it doesn't matter that the motivations are simple. And Audrey just doesn't have that. She doesn't have that kind of like drive as a villain. You don't need to make it complicated with a vampire, but they just don't do anything with her.
Keep talking. I'm gonna go to the restroom real quick.
Sure. I will piggyback off that because I still want to talk about some of my negatives. And the other one is I am a little disappointed that we live in the year 2022 and we have to do this plot of you got to make all the money to make sure that we don't move away. And I'm like, it's 2022, my girl. What are you doing?
I thought the same thing. Is like, wait, where's all her tuition? Aren't you working?
Here's the thing. It made her bitchy in a way that was unnecessary. And I'm like, because I don't think that the character is written to be bitchy, but like the subtext is that that's bitchy. And it's a very like my other problem with the film, like overall, is that that's a very 90s idea of this family dynamic that I think is old hat as shit. I think literally Jamie Foxx has been in this movie before as far as like the family dynamic thing. I think this has happened. And I just didn't care for it. It made the wife a caricature more than a character. And I'm like, I don't mind you giving him the time limit of like, oh, he's got to make $10,000 by Monday. That's fine. Just say that she also has to turn up $10,000.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why we're putting this on one-sided thing. Like, he has to be the only provider. This is such a fucking old. Sorry, this is such an old idea. That's so baked in like bad misogyny. I didn't care for that read. I didn't think it worked. I didn't think it made good sense in the movie as it was. It pissed me off, to be honest.
Sure. I won't say it upset me to that degree, but I do remember thinking early into the movie that when they're like, you got to find all the tuition, you got to get all the money. And I was just kind of thinking like, aren't you working? Aren't you?
Well,
don't you also pay for the kid?
Well, and I mean, it's also coming from this angle where it's like, they clearly get along. Like, I don't understand why, like, they get along, yet she's springing this on him. He's got this small time limit. She expects him to do all of the work for it. Like, who she is as the performance of this character does not mesh with who we're being told she's being in these scenes of like, you only have this amount of time, you got to do this. You can make her distrusting of him for like the whole reason that they split up apparently is because she knows he's lying about shit, which is vampire hunting, and like that's fine and all, but like that should be in their dynamic, not just written actions of to do. Hey, I'm gonna demand these things because we are separated, and it's all telling me things without showing me anything between them. Yeah. Because what it's showing me is like a pretty workable relationship.
Yeah.
But the demands are obscene.
Yeah. I agree with that. Can I piggyback off of one of my other negative?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is Heather.
Yeah.
I don't like Heather. I don't think Heather works in the movie.
I think I like Heather fine, except I just don't think she's developed enough. I don't think she comes in her.
She comes in too late into the movie to have any development with her. And I guess you could probably like rush some, but they choose not to because the next time we see her, it's revealed what she is. And then the next time there's a conversation, it's already at the third act of the movie.
Yeah.
I would definitely say like when she first shows up on screen, I'm thinking, oh, is she gonna try and be like a new love interest for Jamie? That shouldn't be, because he's still obviously devoted to his wife. He wants to keep his family here.
To that point, what you're talking about is it's because it's framed like a cute meet. It's framed like two characters meeting each other.
Yeah, exactly.
To fall in love.
Exactly. And then I was like, oh, maybe she's like a vampire or something, and then it turns out that she is. And
it's literally Steve Rogers coming home in Winter Soldier, and she has to do her laundry. It's literally that.
Yeah, it's the Winter Soldier when he meets Sharon.
Yeah. What was I gonna say about Heather? I mean, I do like Heather. I like the person who played her. I liked her action scenes later in the movie, but I definitely have to say that I wanted more development from Heather. Like if we met Heather earlier in the movie and they had some sort of friendship going on, that would have been fine. And it's revealed that she was spying on him this whole time. I would have been like, okay, that would probably have been a little bit better.
I don't disagree with you that I think that it's a flaw to have her in the film. I think I just liked her presence more than our own villain. So I'm like, I could have used more of Heather. Like I enjoyed watching Heather because I thought the actor was fun. Can't wait to see her as Sabine Wren, y'all. But yes, she is Sabine Wren for Ahsoka. But I don't disagree. Like her placement in the film is bad.
Yeah.
And honestly, it goes to a different idea, which I will offer here, which is that I think her presence works more if you let Jamie Foxx kill Dave Franco.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he beheads him, he should have died. And this, correct me if I'm wrong, that this makes no goddamn sense. How come he can reattach his head, but decapitating her works?
I had the same thought.
Because the implication is that she's the uber vampire that bit him.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So decapitating him doesn't work, but decapitating her does. I don't mind decapitating her, but then like, shouldn't you have to do more to kill her?
Because they do say something about, there's like a throwaway line in the movie about vampires who can move around after they decapitate their heads.
This is not an issue with the movie that I have, but I think the movie delivers too much exposition in too short of a time. There was basically a rundown of every single vampire that goes by so quickly. It's easy to miss some of them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it happens in a very awkward exposition scene. I don't think the exposition scenes in this movie work. And that's where we find out that an Uber vamp can reattach its head.
Well, they say in the scene where after
Dave Franco
reattaches his head, they go to Heather, and Heather says he has uber vampire blood going through him.
Yeah.
That's who transformed him. That's why this is happening. And I'm like, cool. That should mean that our leading villain is that and can do the same.
It does, because Heather also calls her an uber vamp.
Right.
In that same scene.
Right.
So it's really, so when Jamie Foxx decapitates her, and I thought, oh, maybe it was because it was the silver, but that blade that he cuts Dave Franco's head off is also silver.
It could be because Dave Franco doesn't have wood in his heart, and she does. Because they say you have to stake them in the heart with wood and then cut their head off to effectively kill them. That's why when I gotta tell you, Ben, that might be true, and that's a good theory.
It is not made obvious enough in this movie for me to give it the pass on that.
So the reason why I formulated this theory is that like when Jamie Foxx and Snoop Dogg were going through, which another can I piggyback off? Can I also mention one of my
finish your thought and then move on?
Yeah, because when they're going in, it's like, look at these bullets, vampire killers, silver tipped wooden bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, hey, you got like maybe just 2 shots and the vampire's dead. Wood in the heart, silver in the head. So I mean, it maybe, but you're right. It is dumb. It's
not well telegraphed why that works. It works because the story needed it to work.
Yeah,
and that's a flaw.
I like how they bring back the tripwire or the slim wire.
Too.
I like how they brought that back from the beginning and how Jamie's like gets him every time because someone called it that POS weapon, which is like, no, it's not. It's pretty effective.
That was a really good reveal because we hadn't seen that thing in a while.
Yeah,
I really appreciated that.
Yeah. Now, one of my big problems with this movie, as much as I enjoy it, there were a lot of things that I felt like they were trying to set up in a possible sequel, or like little carrots of like maybe like throwaway lines is like, say that the El Jefe line is like, hey, do you think this is El Jefe? He's like, no, this is too big for El Jefe. It's like, what?
I had a feeling that was one of your problems.
Yeah. Yeah, and even wait. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm not muted. I'm sorry.
It's okay, because we're like, don't throw it. I was like, what are you talking about? Besides that, also when they're going to attack Audrey's vampire tomb, and there's a bunch of familiars, but they're building vampire killing bullets. It's like you're working for vampires, but you're making bullets to kill vampires. That isn't that counterproductive in a way. I don't know. There's like a few things, and even like the whole social hierarchy of vampires, or even like the sunscreen thing. Like Audrey was saying, oh look, I'm putting my arm in the sun, but I'm not completely burning up. But we can still live in the daylight. I have the day. We can seize the day. Who the hell was she talking to? That's never explained.
There's also a bit to kind of your point. This didn't bother me. Like it bothered you, but there is a moment when they're in the team up scene, which is a great action scene with the two brothers, and they shoot who they think is a familiar, and it turns out it's a vampire who has sunscreen on, and he runs away. That was the one I was like, feels like the sunscreen thing probably should be a bigger deal, the way they kind of just like, oh yeah, sunscreen's now a thing.
Yeah, exactly, because it's like, are we going full Blade with some daywalkers now, or
even then like a lot of those ones are like, I don't mind. This is a vampire killing movie with Jamie Foxx and Snoop Dogg. Like, I can let some of this slide.
True.
I think the bigger thing for me is just like, for the fun of what this movie is presenting, the villain just doesn't impress. And I think that like some of the lore shit just gets a little too confused up its own butt.
Yeah.
But that like that doesn't bother me as much. And like I do find the family dynamic with Jamie Foxx a little tiresome.
Yeah. I will kind of like back up Ben a little bit with the El Jefe one, because I did expect a post-credits scene, something to kind of tease El Jefe, because the way they talk about him is not necessarily something that hurt the movie at all. It is just a little weird that they kept doing specifically that and then never really paid that off.
Sure.
But can I talk about a positive?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think Jamie Foxx is incredible.
He's a treat to watch this movie.
I will be honest, just real quick on the El Jefe thing. Sorry. I think I was tired when I watched this movie. It did wake me up with some good action, but this was early enough where I might have missed it. But I interpreted that the person she put in the cement was El Jefe.
I can see that, but El Jefe is considered is thought to be older, but I guess that is rumor. That's not.
That's the whole thing. Is he's yeah.
So I think so. The person she put in the cement was someone by the name of Sasha, and she's on the phone when she's going to her daughter's house, and of course the guy she's on the phone with, who now I'm assuming is El Jefe, saying it's like, you had no right to take out Sasha, and she's like, oh please, we own the night, why not seize the day? What I'm doing, we can take control of the city, we don't have to be burdened by just working in the night. And then it's never brought up.
Right, but you're saying you're assuming that the person on the phone was El Jefe.
I'm assuming the person on the phone was El Jefe, but I know for a fact the person she put in the ground with cement was not El Jefe.
Well,
you don't know that for a fact
because you'd only know the person's name, and El Jefe wouldn't be that person's name. It was
El Jefe is a title, not a name.
Yeah, I know, but
she wouldn't be calling him El Jefe.
Right, but like
so Sasha could be El Jefe.
I'm saying you don't know for a fact. This was my read when I watched it, and I'm not saying it's correct. I'm just saying there is not enough information to say that Sasha is not El Jefe. Because the implication is that he was the guy, right? He was the guy running the vampire show in the valley. He was the dude who was living by the old traditions and the old ways, and she put him in the ground because she wants to do new things. And that's why I was interpreting he was El Jefe.
Okay, I was interpreting him as a high-level grunt who wronged her, and
she tells him, like, you live by the old rituals, and we're done with them.
Yeah, so he's not a grunt.
He's an older
He's
ideas.
a person.
Okay, I thought that
big
because
person. He's like the he'd be like I don't know, in the like hierarchy of John Wick. He wouldn't, assuming he's not El Jefe, he wouldn't be the high table, he'd be the person under the high table. If he's El Jefe, then he'd be the high table.
You're not wrong, Ben, that like there's just not enough information to say one way or another, but that was what I thought we were doing, is that they were saying like because they say like, you know, what she's doing is too big to be El Jefe. Well, that's the whole point, is she's overtaking what he was doing in the valley. And like he was like an entity they knew of, but were having trouble pinning down. Well, she pinned him down, she put him in the ground. That was my read. Ben's right. There's not enough information one way or another to make it clear what's going on.
Because I'm with Ben. I didn't read it that way either. I didn't think he was a low-level grunt. But I didn't assume he was El Jefe.
Well, I not like when I meant grunt, I didn't mean like low-level street soldier. I meant like he had a position of power, but then he essentially wronged Audrey, or his plans weren't in line with Audrey. So Audrey's this dude is an obstacle in my way to get what I want. And the phone call just seemed like the person she was on the phone with, he seemed like that was top dog level stuff. He's like, hey, you took out one of my guys. You had no right to take out one of my guys.
It could be. My read was that the guy in the ground was formerly higher than her. Yeah. And that's the whole thing, is she's put him down.
Okay.
We'll never know. No. Or we will. I don't know. In a future film, if this gets one. Brandon, you're right. Jamie Foxx is pretty good in this.
I was going to actually say something else.
Okay, go ahead.
No, in regards to the exposition. I've talked a little bit about the exposition. It's not something that really hurts the movie all that much for me, but there's a lot of exposition that is not delivered very well. And I talked about the scene where they talk about all of the different vampire types, and that's cool. I like the idea of different vampire types.
Me too. I like the way that he works out the logic, like the problem with the hive.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I don't feel like that really comes to any fruition of like fully explaining like why she's bringing them together, like how she's doing that, how she's making these different types of vampires want to live together. The implication for him of like, this is wrong. They would never be here together, is pretty good.
Yeah. And then But there's a line that Audrey says where she says, Audrey, right? That's the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where she says, humans used to worship us here. And then they find like the temple underneath the valley. And meaning that at one point in the past, there was a vampire worshipping society in the San Fernando Valley. And I'm so interested in that coming to fruition, and it never does. It's dropped pretty quickly outside of possibly setting up the set piece for the end fight.
Yeah.
And I thought that's one of the examples of just like the exposition in this film comes at you so fast and loose, and it never quite pays off in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
Because it's so front loaded, and then we just kind of do away with it.
Right.
I probably would have been okay with maybe 15 minutes more on the runtime to get some better exposition, some more lore dumps. Because I was curious. I would like to know more.
I want to pause you. I don't think you mean more. I think you mean clearer.
Yes, that's what I meant. Yeah. For like,
because more is not the problem. It's not the problem that there's not enough of it. It's just not as clear as it needs to be. It's not as natural as it needs to be.
That's what I meant. I meant clear lore dumps or clear exposition, so that way we can understand. Because I do like the different vampires, and I do like how when James Franco character Seth, when they're in the hive after they take out the hive, he's like, "This is all wrong." I was like, "No, let's explore this. This is interesting." Because if all these vampires hate each other, and it's like, if these vampires don't like each other, how come they're living together? What's going on? And also, when they said Uber vampire, my brain thought about Uber, like the rideshare company. So I was like, why do they call them Uber vampires?
Just a bunch of rideshare vampires? My God, Ben.
Or they get their food from the rideshare app? I don't know.
Ben, what does Superman translate to in German?
Uber.
Yep.
Yeah.
Super vamps.
There you go. Yeah, I think you guys are right. I think that the exposition stuff just needs to be cleaner. But it doesn't change the fact that there's some sick ass action in this movie. There's some really great vampire action stuff. Can't gush about it enough, y'all. It's hard to describe, but like there's just really good shit. A lot of contortionist work, really excellent.
A lot of really interesting stunt work. There's also some interesting CGI happening within some of the fights with the use of a mirror in the first fight scene. I thought was really clever.
Yeah, the brothers are played by Scott Adkins, who does a lot of martial arts and all that kind of stuff, and Steve Howey. And Steve Howey is from Shameless, and I love Steve Howey, so seeing him here is wonderful.
They were a lot of fun.
They were.
I really is really great.
I really love their appearance. I think that just the whole concept of the hive scene is executed super, super well.
There is an incredible sequence in that fight where I'm out, send me one, and they throw one bullet and he catches it in the barrel of the gun and then shoots it. And I thought that was incredible.
I love go ahead, Ben.
Not only does he throw a bullet, he unloads one bullet. It flies out of the chamber and into the other chamber.
That's the exact scene I was talking about.
That's just so freaking cool.
There's a lot of cool reloads. There's a lot of cool reload scenes too.
The part where the vampire throws Jamie Foxx upstairs and he's like, that guy just threw me up the stairs.
I think Jamie Foxx is really funny in this.
I think he has moments. There are some scenes where like I would argue he's like just he's just doing his Jamie Foxx thing, and like that's fine. There's the
scene in the trailer. There's a scene in the trailer when he's just like, "Well, man, everyone pees their pants the first time. Did you? No, but you. You did."
He's honestly, in my opinion, he is in many ways at his best with Dave Franco because Jamie Foxx has just never worked alongside, I think, someone who plays as fast as Dave Franco likes to.
Yeah.
With his energy, and it brings out a different dynamic from Jamie Foxx when he's more alone or he's like in the family unit kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, this is like standard. Here we go. Here's Jamie Foxx doing what he does.
But I do like the interplay between him and his daughter, especially on the car chase.
I do too. It's cute. Yeah, especially the car chase scene. I think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's a great sequence. They do a lot of cool stuff here. As far as the action goes. I love the idea of the Fang market, although I don't understand. Like, it bothers me a little bit that like Fangs are worth so much, but we don't know what the heck they're worth so much for. especially that there's a union of hunters that do this, and like they make more money than the black market.
Yeah. Which is wild.
Sure. Okay. I can get on board, I guess, but I just don't understand why it's valuable to have them. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They could say like, oh, it's a proof of kill, I guess, but like that doesn't totally translate.
They're kind of like bounty hunters in that, if that were the case, then, because they get paid for a kill.
Well, just by having the black market first would imply that there is more value than just proof of kill.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like, I don't know, that concept doesn't feel like it's fully explored. But I do like that the fangs are so unique in their look when they come out of a vampire mouth. It's crazy that they look so different when they look very normal, standard vampire when they're in the mouth, but when they come out, they look insane. But I do like that they look insane. I think that's cool.
Also, I kind of like it how Audrey's... Oh, sorry, one more tiny little thing about Audrey. She talks about how vampires are nothing without their fangs. They can't live without them. It's like, rip. I was kind of hoping to see like Jamie Foxx or someone rip out the fangs out of a live vampire. It's like, yeah, suffer that way. I don't know. I don't know.
I got the impression that it's kind of like a bee. It's not quite like a bee can't live without a stinger. It's like because they won't be able to feed without their fangs.
Right.
Correct me if I'm mistaken. Do we ever see her right-hand man get killed? I know we see his arms get ripped off, but do we even see him after that?
Well, Dave Franco like tackles him to the ground.
Oh yeah, okay.
And the implication is, I guess, he ate him.
Can you eat another vampire?
That wasn't clear either. By the way, Snoop Dogg, I think, is great in this.
I think he's great 85% of the time.
Yeah.
And then I think there's a few times where I'm like, all right, so this is like, this is Snoop Dogg being in this movie. All right. But I have to say, like, A, he was in it way more than I anticipated, and B, I think most of the time he was a great inclusion.
I do too. I really like that character, Big John. I love the minigun thing about it. Big Bertha. I thought that was really cool. The big save. I think that's really great.
Yeah.
That's honestly the part where I'm like, I love Snoop Dogg. I enjoy him. That's great. He can't carry the sacrifice moment. It feels very, very forced.
Which is probably why they decided to keep him alive.
They honestly, like, it would have played even better if he had just stayed mostly silent. But he's trying to he's written to put a little too much emotion into it. Yeah. But he should have just like put it down and he'd be like, light up a blunt and be like, just go, man. I got this. And like that be the end of it, because that's all it should have taken. And that would have honestly played better, I think.
So if you're bitten, you don't automatically become a vampire, or is Big John a vampire?
I assume we're living by the rules of
Buffy.
Well, Buffy's not the only place that does this, but that you have to drink from them as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's cool.
No, Princess Sparkle Bunny. We're talking about Archie versus Predator comic a little later.
Predator was last week.
If you're looking for Prey, that's here on our YouTube channel.
On its own separate channel, and also separate video also, so you don't have to sit through all the... Ben, I got it.
Too many cooks in this kitchen. Yeah, I think... God, where were we at? Oh, Snoop Dogg. Yeah. I think it lives by those rules that I think that's the implication that you have to drink the other vampire's blood to turn. Sure. I do like the cheeky like Lost Boys moment of it's like, you know what I love about the Valley? All the vampires. Like leaving it off. I think that's fun.
I think James Franco's turn is kind of abrupt, but I appreciate that it. I mean, there's not really a lot of setup for this, but there's a little bit of setup with like, oh, the vampires are real people. It's crazy to think that these were real people, and then like the payoff being that there are two good vampires. Yeah, I think there's something there, and I like that Dave Franco was a good vampire.
I think it does get a little murky about the concept of like a lot of what Jamie Foxx's character has done, and like what we've seen him do and what we know he's done is hunt down juvies who are the young ones. And the young ones are probably in the most despair, and it's like there's an implication of like there could be a better way out for their own humanity. Yeah. But the movie's not interested in playing with that concept, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I still stand by that. I'm like, I really like Dave Franco's character in this movie. I think he's fun. I think he brings out a lot of good energy from Jamie Foxx. I think Heather works better in a third act where he actually ends up just killing Dave Franco's character, because that means that he has to rely and play with her more. And it's honestly a more tragic moment for Jamie Foxx's character if he failed to save him. But there's not a lot of that in this movie, and that's okay.
Yeah. I like how the secret organization is teased, kind of in the same way that John Wick was in the first film.
Mm-hmm.
I actually appreciate that we don't really get a lot more outside of like, oh, they haven't been around for very long and they've just expanded internationally. Like, there's some cool stuff there.
I really like the way they do the invisibility in the mirror.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that effect is done really well.
I really like the grandmother. I mentioned it, the fight scene, how they use the mirror with the grandmother, I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's an older one that I really like to see. And I think they used it to their advantage really well. I also really like the concept of the multiple air conditioners to let you know that a home has a vampire in it. They have to keep it really cold in the valley.
Yeah.
3 to 4 air conditioners for a 1-floor small home.
And
pretty telltale sign.
What's actually really interesting about that is that felt like it was set up really well in a way that this movie kind of forgets to. How it showed us, it didn't tell us.
Yeah.
Because the first time we see Jamie Foxx go into a vampire home, we see his breath, and that tells us, oh, they have to keep it really cold.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, as we need to know.
But before he walks in, we see a line of 4 air conditioner units, and I'm like, yo, I lived in a 2-story apartment and I had one of those, and I know that's too many air conditioners for this house.
Mm-hmm.
And we get the same thing when the brothers are raiding the hive. We see multiple air conditioners for that home that shouldn't have them. Because you just don't need that many for that size home.
That hive fight scene is so good.
It's really great. It's the highlight of the film, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the shitty boss character at the union works pretty well. I think that he's played well. I think his interaction both with Big John and Jamie Foxx's character all works pretty well. I think there's a lot of inventiveness in the weapons. There's some cool stuff there. There's a lot of fun world play in this movie. Honestly, like the movies like negatives working against it would be far less incremental with a stronger villain presence.
Yeah. Shall I read what Ryan wrote?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Ryan says, do you want me to read his score as well?
Yeah, go ahead. Might as well right now, even if we have more to say.
So Ryan says, I give Day Shift an 8 out of 10. Great action and inventive vampire stuff, even if it's a bit shallow. Villain was serviceable, but fun enough. Heather, the vampire friend, didn't have much going on other than we need to desausagify this fest, so I wish she was more developed.
I didn't want to say that because I knew Ryan said that, and I was like, he's so right. That's exactly why Heather's here.
Other than that, a good time at the TV movies, 8 out of 10.
Yeah. I think also we didn't play enough with the concept of familiars and like humans that would be devoted and how they felt about it, that kind of thing.
I agree.
I think there's just a lot of like pieces on the table that we could play with more. But like, again, what really matters is that the characters overall worked. The family concept is like in the sense of the timeline, like just I've talked about it. The wife's bullshit bothers me a little. But the action is good. The setting is good. The world is unique in a way. They did some cool stuff with I'd rather they take big swings with creating new ideas around vampires than just do the usual. And they did. They did take some big swings. And I think that the characters mostly work really well, especially our main cast with Franco, with Snoop Dogg, with Jamie Foxx. So I had a good time watching it. I had a better time than we feared a while ago.
Great.
You want me to rate it? 7.5.
Yeah.
7.5 out of 10.
Final thoughts. This was a fun time. I am actually really glad I watched it. This was definitely it's because when you say vampire hunting movie in LA, it could go one of two ways. It could go like pretty good or like really bad, I feel. But this is definitely one of those movies. Like, this is a fun watch. I mean, yes, there are some glaring problems with it, and there are some things where I wish they expanded on a little bit more. But other than that, I still was very entertained. I was having fun. I mean, I do agree with Brandon. There were times it was pick up your phone in certain instances, but other than that, solid film, 7.5.
I agree with a lot of what you guys stated. I stand true to everything I said. I think it is a very good time, though. I really like the actors playing our heroes. I should clarify. I think they're a lot of fun. I think the action is fantastic. Rivals are not. It's close to John Wick. It's not quite John Wick, but it's close to John Wick. I think the action is very good. A lot of practical action that I really liked. I felt this was a very cinematic movie. Felt very cinematic for Netflix. Didn't quite feel like, what people are claiming the Gray Man is or things like that. Very bright and brightly colored film. Yeah, I really liked it. I really had a good time. 8 out of 10.
I think this is a good point, Brandon. I think 8 out of 10 is a good score. I come in a little lower, but I get it. Mm-hmm. I think this is a good compare and contrast against The Princess, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the action is here, but so is a lot of the other stuff I was saying was lacking in The Princess. This has character stuff, this has world stuff that's really engaging and all that. This is landing where I think The Princess fell short. This has a lot of the things I think that film needed to sell more than just its action.
Shall we do our book club then?
Yeah, let's book it.